ramorum. It's killing the tan oaks in here. Well, we know because 30 years ago, in 1976, they cored trees, looking for bicentennial trees for the 200th birthday of the country. And they came through Muir Woods and took a lot of core samples. Probably wouldn't allow it today, but as I said, we got to figure out what the average age was. They cored that thickest tree. That's how I knew it was 700 years old. And you could actually see the core hole in this tree, about 4 feet up there. When they pulled out the little ring sample, they got a surprise. This tree wasn't 200 years old. It was 1,200 rings. That's how old this tree is. Now 1,230. It's the oldest tree we know of in the park and still growing. It's got a huge fire cavity on the other side, goes up about 50 feet. This is the bat nursery tree. This is where the females come to have their babies in the spring, bats. We do evening walks during the year and see the bats flying out of here around sunset. That's it. So these redwoods have done a great job surviving all the forces of nature, of fires and floods and banana slugs. A lot hard time with people. 1848, gold was discovered in California, and that set off the gold rush. And during the 1850s, hundreds of thousands of people came to the Bay Area. When they come to California to mine gold, a lot of them ended up settling around the San Francisco Bay. And redwood, being so difficult to burn, being so impervious to rot, it's great building material. During the 1850s, early 1860s, every single coast redwood in the Bay Area was chopped down for lumber to build San Francisco and Oakland and San Jose. The only big forest that was saved was the one in this canyon. And that was not through any conscious effort. It was an accident of geography. Turned out this place was too difficult to get to. It's too inaccessible for the loggers. And you can see just trying to drive in here 155 years later, it's not all that much better. No truth to the story, the loggers left in discouragement when they couldn't find a parking spot. That's not true. But by 1900, the roads were a little bit better, the logging techniques had improved, and the woods were under threat. Logging company actually bid $100,000 to buy the canyon here. They were all set to come in and chop down the trees. So that's when we needed a hero. We needed somebody to step forward and save the woods. We all know who that was, right? You'd think so. It's named after him, but it wasn't. It's a man named William Kent. Kents were a wealthy family from Chicago. They made their money in the meatpacking industry, and Kent's father moved the whole clan out to California. Kentfield here in Marin. It's named after Albert Kent. He was the patriarch of the family. William Kent stayed behind in Chicago for a while. He was a corruption-fighting politician. He was an alderman in Cook County. But he came out to Cal. A couple of years he came out. I guess he figured his job back there would never be done. Kent had read the books of John. Yeah, it was a Chicago joke. Thank you. William Kent had read the books of John Muir, though. John Muir, the famous naturalist and conservationist. And Kent thought it was important to save areas like this for posterity. So he used the Kent family fortune to buy land that he thought ought to be saved. Problem was, he had gone overboard in his land purchases. When it came time to save the woods, well, he had already gone through the Kent family cash. Had to borrow money from friends. He had to mortgage his home to raise the funds to buy this place. Well, John Muir once said, I might have been a millionaire. I chose to be a tramp. William and Elizabeth Kent had 7 children. They had 5 boys and 2 girls. And that wasn't exactly the lifestyle that Elizabeth had in mind when they moved out from Chicago. So Elizabeth sat William down and she asked him what he thought he was doing with this last land transaction. Didn't they have enough white elephant real estate deals here in California he had already gone through? She knew none of this land was ever going to be worth anything. William Kent looked at her, though, and he asked, well, if we lost all of our money, but we saved those trees, wouldn't it still be worth it? What'd she say? Got 50-50 chance. What'd she say? Yeah, she said yes. Anyway, see? Next year, though, they almost lost all of the trees anyway. It was 1906, April 18th, San Francisco earthquake and fire. None of the trees fell down. None of the trees burned. San Francisco burned. Local water company went to court to take this land away from Kent. They filed papers to condemn the land. They were going to log all of the redwoods, use them to rebuild San Francisco. That's where they finally stopped the fire, when it got to the homes made out of redwood in San Francisco. They were going to build a dam up where the entrance arch is today and flood the canyon for a reservoir. And Kent couldn't think of any way to stop them. He wrote everybody that he knew in high places asking for help. One person that he knew was the first head of the Forest Service, a man named Gifford Pinchot, later governor of Pennsylvania. Pinchot and Kent had gone to college together. Pinchot told Kent about a new law that had just been passed to let the President of the United States set aside land as national monuments by his signature alone. National Park has to go through Congress. Wasn't enough time. He also introduced William Kent to the President, Theodore Roosevelt. They exchanged letters. William Kent offered to make a gift of the woods, an outright gift to the people of the United States and the people of the world, if President Roosevelt would set aside the land as a preserve. Well, Teddy Roosevelt, he had read the books of John Muir. He was a buddy of Muir's. When Roosevelt went out camping at Yosemite, he had Muir come and be his guide. And Roosevelt had already set aside vast tracts of land as parkland. So Teddy Roosevelt thought it was a great idea. And he probably said, "Bully, I'll be happy to take the land. We'll create a national monument, and I've got the perfect name for it. We'll call it Kent Woods. After you, Mr. Kent, after your family. This is a very generous gift. First time a private individual has donated land for a national monument. And you should be memorialized." William Kent thought about it for a moment, and he said, "Oh, wait a minute, Mr. President. Don't want this named after me. Got 7 children, trying to teach them to be good citizens. I expect them to carry on the Kent family name by their good civic deeds. If they don't do those good deeds, if they spend all their time playing video games," no, he didn't say that. "If they don't do those good deeds, well, the name Kent just might as well be forgotten. I prefer that you name the new monument after John Muir, because he's my hero, and I know he's been an inspiration to you." So in January 1908, January 9th, President Roosevelt signed the proclamation creating Muir Woods National Monument. And you know, we don't have any proof that John Muir had ever been here before that time. Probably the one spot on the planet he hadn't visited was to the place named after him. But he did come to visit a couple of months later. Came to meet the Kents for the first time. He probably had some of the younger Kent children sitting on his lap and telling stories about Alaska. Probably had the banana slugs crawling up his arm. Then he took a walk through the woods, just as we're doing today. And as he walked, John Muir reflected, "Well, I've got a glacier named after me in Alaska. I've got a mountain named after me in Yosemite, Mount Muir. School groups all over the world are naming gardens after me, Muir Gardens, but no one's ever done anything like this before." John Muir said, "You've done me a great honor." He said Muir Woods was the best tree lovers monument that could possibly be found in all the forests of the world. So that's how he came to be, just coming up now on our centennial, our 100th anniversary. So, it's 12 o'clock. If you need to get back, it's just about 10 minutes straight back to the entrance. If you've got a few more minutes, I thought what we'd do, we have thousands of ladybugs that come down into the park in the summertime. Come to rest. They're actually about 5 minutes up at the junction of the Fern Creek Trail. I thought we'd go up and take a look at the ladybugs. And while we're there, take a look at the famous albino tree. And if you need to go, that's fine. Thank you for coming along.
What'd you think about that?
Very informative.
Who's John Muir?
Huh?
Who was John Muir?
Some guy who has woods. Here in this grove of enduring redwoods, preserved for posterity,
Here's a bunch by the forest guard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Finger in there. I'm making a soundtrack of me.
Yeah, what did they make it?
Let everything do it in your woods. But if you look carefully, you might notice something a little bit unusual or peculiar. Certainly ironic for this place. The favorite tree of William Kent, the Kent tree. Favorite tree of John Muir, and for centuries and centuries, the tallest tree in Muir Woods. Anybody notice anything? It's not a coast redwood, it's a Douglas fir. Came crashing down, cut the tops off of those two redwoods. Notice they sprouted again behind it. One of them was unfortunate enough to be underneath. That's starting to send out new growth. But the Douglas fir is stone dead.
你刚刚到了没到你到谁你讲？他就开始生的，他出啊，一句那些人哪里有人？
Let's make our way down real carefully and I'll show you the albino tree.
So we have to kind of stay on the trail when you do this. We stay on the trail.
I don't think they would like.
Isn't that cool from this angle?
Oh look! Maybe that's where the steam's coming
You guys
from.
need to take a picture.
Look, those spider webs. Wow. The spider webs.
If you can give me a camera, I'll take
Like
pictures
to live in the
Okay, let's wait for Luke, you guys.
so funny. They want to live in the We'll wait for you.
Now wait for Lukey B, okay?
You keep walking until they'll catch up. No, we'll have to wait.
I know you need to have chlorophyll to make food. But if you think of one of the ways that these redwoods can reproduce, you can kind of envision a scenario where you could live as an albino at least for a while. Remember, they stub sprout mostly. And they start from the parent's root crown. Eventually they'll develop their own roots. But you could be sprout with a genetic defect, have no chlorophyll, but you'd be fine for a while. You've got your parent's root crown there. And you can kind of you just sponge off your siblings that are making food in the family circle. We've all got one of those in the family, right? The hair side on the brothers and sisters. So that's what's happened. Very rare, but it happens. We've got 3 of them at Muir Woods. Usually they're really anemic. They're tiny because they have lots of the little stomata, the little the holes that, for the gas and the water exchange. They've got extra because they have to pull food up through the same tubes as they pull the water up. So if it's dry, if there's a drought, they usually don't last. So right here, let's see if we can find it. This way. It's confusing. Now it's got plenty of tannin. What it's missing is the chlorophyll in the needles.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's right here. And that's just goes up about 30 feet, 20, 30 feet, which is good size. I think there's one larger one that's known in existence. Usually they're not more than 3 or 4 feet. Very, very anemic, but that's it. That's an albino redwood. Sorry. See, it's not doing very well compared to its siblings right there. That's it. I can see everyone's thrilled. Ladybugs were better, right? So from here, if you want to take a longer hike, you could just head down to Bridge 4. It's not much further. Cross over Bridge 4, and you actually come back on the hillside trail. If you've got decent walking shoes, you can do that.